Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, Muslim comedian, OG, host of the Shout Out Show. Hope that you're having a fabulous Wednesday. We have so much to go through. I want to give a shout out for all those people that was sending the wads out to me. I was very sick with bronchitis last week. Barely could get through the show. Shout out to Satana for making sure I got in and didn't hurt myself. But I want to make sure everybody that made dua for me, I appreciate you. People that came out to the show on last week, Thursday, at the comedy show at the Punchline Comedy Club in Houston. Thank you so much. Also, Mass AYM that came to Houston. Thank you so much for hosting me and having a great show. Harvest Fest. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it to Harvest Fest. I was just under the weather. I was out of it. So please forgive me. We'll make that up at some time in the near future, inshallah. Also, want to give an announcement. We have an award ceremony hosted by Masjid Tawheed in Houston, Fifth Ward in Houston at University of Houston downtown. Actually, University of Houston, not the downtown campus, but University of Houston. The main campus, hosted again by Masjid Tawheed, is the Impact Awards. They have so many people getting awards. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. We have Imam Shaka, Imam Zaid Shaka. We have Imam Siraj Wahaj, Imam Khalid Yassin. We have Elijah Wan. We have Omar Regan. We have myself. We have our dear sister, editor of the Muslim Journal, Aisha Mustafa. We have just how many people. Sister Nadia. Sister Nadia is going to be coming out. I mean, we just got a lot of people. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. And in Houston, they're coming back. The Muslim community is coming back in the city of Houston. We're going to have the Bean Pie Festival. This is a different Bean Pie Festival. We're going to be hosting Muslim singles. They're going to have a social. We're also going to have a meet the greet with author Zakir Tamiz, who wrote the book Charles Sumner, Portrait, really, Conscience of a Nation, which is a great book about a abolitionist before the Civil War and how that shaped a lot of Black intelligentsia in terms of abolition, lawmaking, and really the esprit de corps that gave rise to so many incredible Black abolitionists. So that's going to be there. We're going to also have a culture night that's going to be next Saturday, starting at 5. We got Jawad, Khalid, the Future. We got so many artists, brothers and sisters. I have to put it up here. I'm going to run the ad for them, inshallah. But listen, thank you so much for coming to the show. This is a different show. Right now, the title, as you can see, is Bean Pie Festival, Government Shutdown. Oh, my. Listen, as we sit here at this point, people's lives are being affected by government policy. It's been a weird week, and I feel, so forgive me, I feel like I'm really rushed right now because there are just so many things that I need to get to in the context of what's going on around us. And when I say what's going on around us, this is what I mean. You know, the Shout Out Show has been blessed to be on every Wednesday for quite a number of years. Before that, we ran almost 500 episodes consecutively. All praises due to Allah, and shout out Sister Sastana. But my point was we were able to catch news just like that. You know, if it happened in the morning, we were able to put it on the show. If it happened after the show, we could go right back and put on it. What you're seeing now are spaces and synapses in the release of news. So what happens is something happens, and then you don't necessarily find out about it until 2-3 days later. Such has been the case with policymaking in the United States. If you want to hide something from Black folk, they used to say, put it in a book. If you want to kill something for Black people, they say, put it in the law. And so you're seeing the beginning of things. And these are things I can go back and talk about when they had the insurrection at the Capitol the day before. We did a show. What was the name of the show? Smells Like a Coup to Me. And then you had the insurrection. Right now, you're having a scenario. This is a ramp up, brothers and sisters, for martial law. Secretary of War, Little Petey, decided to bring in a bunch of generals and things like that. And they literally talked about the fact that they want to use American people as guinea pigs in the context of how do we put down resistance? Well, resistance from within or resistance from without? That is something we're going to be talking about today. and it does tie into the government shutdown. I'm going to give you as much I can in a layman's term, in a conceptual way, what's going on in the White House and how it affects you. All right. So listen, don't move. We're gonna be right back. Satana can't make it today. She had some business. Shout out to Satana. We hope everything's going well. We look forward to seeing you next week. We're gonna be right back. It's Preacher Moss on the Shout Out Show. This is a show you definitely don't want to miss. So let's get to it because I don't believe in wasting a whole lot of time. I want to give a shout out to our shout out family. We got brother Altaf Rashid, Rashid from Toronto. He's our Canadian envoy to the show. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Johnny L. Thomas, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's going on, little brother? Good to see you. Of course, Bilal Salahuddin and his queen, Sister Sonia Dalton Salahuddin, who so graciously came out to the show Thursday before last. We love you and thank you so much. I know I owe you guys some dinner because they've been married over 20 years. We're going to do that. I haven't forgotten. My main man, Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Big brother, how you doing in South Kakalaki? And we have some people out in IG land. I got to give them some love. Inkirk 229 joined. Sundiata Rashid, my main man from Lighthouse Match did. How you doing, beloved? Shadia 213. Raheem Star joined. And okay, thank you, sister. Inkirk 229. Thank you so much for following me. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So let's get down to the game. I said earlier before we went to the open, the show open. I feel like I'm in a rush right now. I feel like I'm in a bit of a rush right now. And that's not normally me. What I'm seeing is a cavalcade of things that affect and are soon to affect each and every one of us in the context that one, we're not going to be able to change it. Two, it's going to create a definite negative dynamic around us, particularly those who are not MAGA supporters, those who are Black, those who are Latino. We've seen what's happened to the Latino population. The idea is not so much deporting people, it's scaring them to the point where they don't want to come to the United States unless they come under specific conditions. What are the specific conditions that they come in? They come in a specific condition of servitude. That when they come, the people who kick them out and need to hire them back are now going to bring them under the auspices of we don't need you, you need us, and it isn't true. But it's the point that we're going to create a condition. Now, it's two things you should know. Brother JT was in the military. My father was a veteran. I am old enough to say that I'm probably amongst the last group of guys, high schoolers or youth that had to sign up for the draft, select the service. I had to sign up for the draft. And when I signed up for the draft, basically, when I looked into it, if there was a war, it basically meant I signed a creed agreement that said that I had a license to kill. That's facts. That's facts. So when you're looking at things now with ICE, when you're looking at things with the idea of the National Guard doing these things, it usurps the normal protocol. In a war, you send in the Marines first as a policing action. If you send in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, those are seen as acts of war. In Virginia, Little Petey, Secretary of War Little Petey, called together generals, top level elite military minds to come to Quantico, Virginia. And they sat in Quantico and they listened to this guy who had really no experience in terms of warfare, had no experience in terms of how do you move large populations of military data and military personnel, had no war experience, begin to tell people about what the ethos was going to be for the Secretary of War or the Department of War. On top of that, Trump came, and this is a guy who's essentially been a draft dodger, okay? A draft dodger. I'm going to say that. Why? Because I had to sign up for selective service. If they called my number, I had to go. They are talking now about sending military personnel to practice how do you put down dissent. This has never happened in the history of the United States, except with black people. But this is different. You see, all the lies you hear about DEI and things like that are meant to give people plausible denial, are meant to give people the opportunity to say, it's them, not us. It's you, not me. And what happens now is all the chickens come home to roost. To quote our dear brother Malcolm X, all the chickens come home to roost. At the same time, we have a government shutdown. This is a government shutdown on top of the fact that you had Doge, which is Elon Musk, come in and gut the government system of vital services that vital service that were, I want to say, paramount to existence throughout the country. Thousands upon thousands of government workers were released unceremoniously and illegal. They were released. And now you have a situation whereby you gut the rest of the system. No, I told everybody, I don't know if you remember, but I told everybody the thing with gutting the federal system in the United States, particularly in Washington, D.C., because I'm a child of two parents who were social service, they were civil service workers. They worked for the government. The idea is now you have removed a pathway to the middle class. One of the strategies of the Trump administration right now is to effectively widen the gap between the haves and have-nots. Even if you have to artificially do it, even if you have to create have-nots by taking their jobs. Or if you can't create the have-nots, you create a new class, which is the have-less. And you create these two people, these two bodies of folks who now will have to argue over the lack of resources, not argue over resources, argue over the lack of resources, argue over the lack of opportunity. At the same time, we have a poor jobs number. We came in 30,000 jobs less than expected. And at the same time, we have a government officials, we have a court system, not government official, but we have a court system and a Congress that just can't seem to get out of its way. What does that mean for me and you? What does that mean for me and you? I'm going to tell you what it means for me. Maybe it means the same thing for you. I could be totally wrong. This is a reminder. This is a reminder that the government's never been and never will be God. This is a reminder that if you give people the opportunity to be cruel without repercussions, they will be cruel. If you give people the opportunity to steal without repercussions, they will steal. I said at the top of the show, the old thing is, if you want to keep something important from black people, put it in the book. If you want to keep something that can kill black people, put it in the law. Well, we can expand that now, because it's not just black people. It is Latinos, it is women, it's people of color, it's farmers. I mean, brothers, this is it. You know, we will not win, and I'm going to say this, and I'll be very careful how I phrase it. We're not going to win or change the dynamic in this country through elections. That time is past. We will not change the dynamic through elections. You are now looking at a ecosystem that bodes itself for Armageddon. This is the theater of the insane. This is the theater of the irrelevant. This is the theater of the inane, if you will. And what I mean is, everything that's important now takes a backseat to what? Frivolity, to vanity, to arrogance, to the insistence, if you will, that I am better than you. If you are in a position where you think that I am better than you, then you're not governing for the people. You're governing for people who are like-minded like you. Sorry, MAGA. I hate to be the one to tell you, but I do want to tell you because I want you when you get mad, I want you to say a Negro told me Donald Trump was going to do me dirty. Because he's going to do you dirty. You may be the last ones. No, you may be the ones holding on, but I traveled to some of these rural areas, and those farmers are not happy. You see, DEI started killing them first. That's number one. Number two is, and this is just a bona fide fact, when white people don't get money, it's always a theory about zero sum. When white people don't have money, it's always because black people have money, Latinos have money, Native Americans have money. We didn't have money. You know what we had? We had intellectual capacity to produce money in spaces where you couldn't, to produce agriculture, to produce art, to produce culture, to produce commerce under the worst situations, the most oppressive situations. We systematically, metaphorically, have grown roses through concrete. Damn it, America, you're not going to win. We're going to do it. But this is my suggestion. As this Tower of Babel goes back and forth, brothers and sisters, stop running underneath it trying to catch it. As it swings, stop trying to catch it. Move as far away as you can from that leaning tower and let it crash. And for once in our life, let's be sympathetic to the fact that nobody's been sympathetic to us. Not to sit around and feel sorry for ourselves. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is more important. What I'm saying is we need to look at the repercussions of other people's actions and let's be strategic about it. The military is being trained to turn on its own. Donald Trump, given an opportunity, will say, I don't like so-and-so city. It needs to be whatever. I'm going to send the troops. You're creating a situation where we're a third world country. You're creating a situation where we can have a military junta just off the fact that this guy thinks that he's a king. You know, I said this before years ago, and I think it's applicable now. And somebody asked me, why don't you like Donald Trump? I said, I don't really know the guy. I don't know his policies. I said, but I'm going to tell you how he makes me feel. I said, I never want to be around a person who feels like somehow, some way, they own or have the patent on mercy. That in their mind, they figure that they can control your outcomes. And the idea and the bravado and the arrogance, the sheer arrogance, is driven by greed. And on the other side, is driven by fear. You know, it's one thing for us to sit around and watch and understand Amber doesn't have any clothes on, but somebody got to not just say you don't have clothes on, you got to say, hey, and you're fat too. Here's my point. A couple years ago, the Democratic Party made some mistakes. You see, you keep playing a game and you don't believe the game. You keep playing the game, realizing that you lose because you don't know how to play the game. And here's the game, brothers and sisters. And I mean this in the most beautiful, gentle, halal way. Particularly Muslims. We sit around obsessing over what is haram and halal in a religious context in a world that does not have religious context. We consider our religiosity the thing that's going to change this stuff. Halal and haram is in our religious circles. You have to be concerned with what is illegal and what is not illegal. What is a crime and what is not a crime? Because now everything's blurred. The lines They move the goalposts every time somebody does something. Oh, it's not this, it's not that. I was sitting there reading. Well, by the time we have the show next time, Sean Combs will be sentenced. Prosecutors want to give him 11 years, at least 11 years. His people are saying no more than 14 months. And you know what? You know how they're arguing it? They're arguing it based on manipulation of the law. You got a good lawyer, you can do that. But here's my thing, and maybe I don't want to fall short making this point. Because we don't make laws, we are subject to laws. Because we don't make laws, we're subject to laws. The big fear about critical race theory with the Project 2025 or whatever, the big theory and the fear about critical race theory is that people would start becoming litigious, understanding about how these laws affect our environment, how they affect our schools, how they affect our elections, how they affect our taxes, how they affect the judicial system. Essentially, they decided the things that could hurt us, they put them in laws. But they didn't do it for black people, they did it for everybody. Black people yelling oppression, racism has become passe. Why? Because we're doing this so long. We're doing it so long with some effect, but lately the black community has not turned out the intelligentsia, if you will, to really combat the things that are hurting us in the community, because we have to work through the marketplace of oppression right now. So it's not enough that little Johnny got killed in the street by the police. We have to worry about Ahmed who got picked up on the street, and brother Fernando who came out of Dunkin' Donuts, he got swiped up, and nobody's seeing him for the last 6 weeks. The formula now is to continue populating us with misery, inequity, and injustice. Misery, inequity, and injustice. That we're given a steady diet to the point that we're full, and that fool has leaned in fully, and now we're complacent. There are people who are faith-based, who wake up in the morning, they pray to Allah, they pray to Jesus, they pray to Yahweh, they pray to Buddha, and when they finish praying, they sit there and they feel helpless. The guide of religion, a connection to the Most High, all of a sudden, that connection is not as strong. I was having a great talk with a friend of mine on Instagram earlier today. And we talked about the Nation of Islam. And he asked me, he loved the Nation of Islam, as do I. But he said, you got to get to the theology. It's either this or that. I said, it's easy for you to say that now because you weren't back in the 1940s and the 50s and the 60s when the theology was available. When the proselytizing came in the 40s and 50s and 60s, it was Master Farad Muhammad. It was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And these were people who were dealing with problems in their real time. That we talk about theology, religious theology in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and these black people couldn't even vote. But somehow, some way, they find religious positioning to create community. There's something in that that's extremely valuable, and we're missing it. A government shutdown right now, hear me, a government shutdown right now is the pathway to religious persecution. Preach, what are you saying? Afghanistan is what I'm saying. Iraq is what I'm saying. All of these places started out just like what's happening in Quantico. And what you understand, brothers and sisters, is when they shut the government down, you create a void. This is the old playbook from all the colonization games back in the day. They're trying to colonize the United States from within. And once they get to a certain point, they police us. So a shout out show all of a sudden has a different kind of ramifications. Not for me as a person who's broadcast a shout out show, but for you as a listener, that it creates a you heard of wellness circle, it creates an unwellness circle, it creates an uneducated circle, it creates an unliterate circle, it creates an unspiritual circle, it creates an unmerciful circle, it creates an unforgiving circle. And all those circles are antithetical to what we believe as faith people or people of faith. The thing that I always found interesting, and I had to get ready to wrap here in a couple minutes. The thing I found is interesting is the silence. It's the silence. There's two types of silence. There's a silence that you yell and scream and nobody hears. And then there's a silence where people silence themselves. That they're afraid to be heard. They're afraid to have their ideas reviewed or critiqued. They're afraid to have their ideas reviewed in a way where the rebuttal is not a rebuttal. It's revenge. It's revenge. You know, all the things that are happening now follow a pattern. It follows a mental health pattern. It's a mental illness pattern, if that makes sense. The thief, the person who's the thief, you know what his greatest fear is? That somebody will steal something from him. A killer, the killer's greatest anxiety is that somebody will kill them. In America, racism, the greatest issue about racism is that given an opportunity, Black oppressed peoples going back to the 1600s will rise up and in an opportunity will treat the oppressor like the oppressor treated them. And the crazy part is it gets licensed that the anxiety isn't addressed. The anxiety is heightened. And the anxiety becomes law. The anxiety becomes, I don't know why we have a Supreme Court right now. It's not supreme. It's inferior. It's a white supremacist court. Did I say that right? Yeah, the white supremacist court of America, because now you have judges who realize that they can make a decision that is totally against the Constitution, that violates so many levels of constitutional precedent, but they know in the environment there's no repercussions. You know, this is 1933 Germany. Let me shout out all the Zionists too, because you have a good part in this. You know, the anxiety of the Holocaust and making that a point whereby you can attack everybody. The whole idea of if it means we have to shed everybody's blood so that we success, that's not real. That's not religion. You know, the whole idea, if you look at the Torah is not constructed for Zionists to do it. And the Zionists are not Jewish. They don't follow the Torah. They don't follow the canon. They never have, they never will. And what happens is when I told you that absence, I told you earlier, when you have that absence of government, that absence of structure and infrastructure that's meant to have checks and balances, this is what you get. You know, when I had to sign up for the draft, because you have to sign up for the draft, and I had a lot of questions. One of my questions I asked when I signed up was, what if I don't believe what you're telling me? What if you tell me to do something and I feel like morally it's not correct? And the guy said, we're not asking you to make moral decisions. We're asking you to do what we tell you to do. So maybe, brothers and sisters, as we wind this up, the issue is instead of the same lizard brain response, fight or flight, maybe we put another in there, was not fight or flight, but flourish. That we create a new round. You know, it's funny. You know, cops used to come through the neighborhood and say, get off the corner. Why do I have to get off the corner? Why? Because you told me to get off the corner. And people would say, well, I have to get off the corner. When it was one person on the corner, the cops were very strong. But when it was 15, 30, 40 people on the corner, he'd look at us and he'd just go away. strength in numbers, strength in mercy, strength in intelligence. That's all I'm asking. All right, everybody, that's our show. Talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Remember, people, resist. It ain't illegal yet. Talk to you soon.